Good morning.
Good morning. Episode 3. It's an exciting moment in our life.
Right? We have momentum now.
We have, yes, one time's a charm, two time it, I don't know the saying.
Yeah, I was going to say you just butchered that. I don't know it, so I'm not going to try to, but whatever you were doing, we're going to...
It's just wipe it
It's
clean.
gone.
Yeah.
It's gone. Anyways, we are back for episode 3.
3, yes.
We are excited to be back talking about Chicago real estate.
Yeah.
I feel like every time we start, we need to have that little disclosure.
Yes, local.
What you listen to next is going to talk about Chicago real estate. Chicago in the city, local, not specific to your property or anywhere else.
Yes.
Anyways.
So what did you do this week? What have you been doing in Chicago? What have you taken advantage of this
What have I
month?
taken advantage of? Well, we are in full holiday mode, right?
Yes.
I love this time of year in the city, but I also have to acknowledge and admit it's a lot. It's a little exhausting, right? There's
Yeah.
a lot to do. Obviously, we are still working to the nth degree. We still have people out there buying and selling. We're doing all of our prep for next year. We're trying to sprinkle in some holiday cheer. I think every night at about 1:30 or 2 o'clock in the morning, I'm making a mad dash downstairs to make sure that our elf on the shelf is properly positioned for the morning.
Wait, do you have to move it every day?
It goes away every night and it comes back every morning. So yeah, it needs to be moved every day. And I forget about that a lot. So
Well, that's why you have a husband.
we forget about it
Takes
a
it.
lot.
Oh,
in the,
okay.
So it's one of those things that we're absolutely enjoying the holidays.
What you need to start doing is just leaving it on the floor and letting the dogs just move it around for you.
Yeah, but the whole point is, and the girls are in like the best age for this now, is that they believe it all. And so we watched the movie before we started it again. And if you touch Lynx is our elf on the shelf, he loses his Christmas powers. So if somebody were to touch him and move him in the middle of the day, it could be catastrophic.
Really?
Yes.
I've never watched it, so I have no idea.
It's a very serious thing. But anyway, so we're enjoying it all. It's a lot. It's a lot. And I think that's the sentiment that when I talk to a lot of people is that it's that balance of how do you soak in all the city has to offer, all the fun, the family and stuff like that, and not get overwhelmed by it.
Yeah.
What about you?
Totally. I mean, I feel like we've been doing a lot this week. My mom came into town, so that was so
that's fun.
And
And your mom's a big foodie, isn't she?
She is a total foodie. Oh my God, we went to ABBA this last week with in the West Loop. And so it's her favorite space. She is so adorable. She's like, I took her there in May.
Is that the place that you always rave about the spread that they have?
Yeah. So I took her there in May and she is obsessed with it. And so she every time she comes back, she's like, all right, I want to go back to that restaurant.
Have it.
I must have this thing. And it's so funny because I'm like, Mom, there are other restaurants in Chicago. Like we can explore and there's other really great things and we can go try something new. And she's like, no, I really want this Mahumara spread from ABBA. She's like, the Willow Room is like the one that we consistently go to as well. And she's like, I need their lobster ravioli. So it's always so funny just to go there.
Gotcha.
But so we had a really good time there.
I always like having people come into town because it kind of forces you to go do things. Some of the stuff that you typically do and some of the stuff pushes you outside of your realm.
Yeah. And so then last night we went to Dear Evan Hansen, which was really, really fun. And
That's
love
the Broadway show, right?
Yes, it's the Broadway show. So it's
And did you like
really,
it?
really, really good. I tried going
Kid-friendly
2
or
years.
not kid-friendly?
It is not kid-friendly.
Okay, good to
They
know.
do swear a lot, and they do have a couple
So it depends on the kid
sexual
then.
innuendos in
Oh,
there.
definitely
So
not kid-friendly.
do not go in there.
Okay.
But it's really, really fun, and I tried going like a couple years ago when it was pre-pandemic, but the tickets were like $400 or $500, and it was so hard to get tickets. But little hot tip is I go on hottix.org, which they always do like 50% off Broadway shows, and I absolutely love it. They also have a ton of Christmas shows this year right now.
You have been so good to us with that. Like we have used that little tip to get discounted theater tickets all the time, and it's fantastic, right?
Yeah,
We have so
they
many
like
things to
literally set aside 2 rows on the main floor
On the orchestra level.
On the orchestra level, both
certain.
right and left side.
We saw Frozen last year, remember?
Oh yeah. I love Frozen. Oh my God, a little Let It Go, and it's great, especially going into the new year.
Totally. Okay, well let's. I think it's time to jump in. First and foremost, thanks to everybody who sent questions in. We got some really, really good ones and some very, very relevant ones. Do you want to kind of take the first one?
Sure. This is always our favorite one. So it's always talking about tax bills in Chicago. So obviously we know that this year we had delayed tax bills, and it definitely came out this last month. So everyone's kind of talking about it. Everyone's tweeting about it supposedly as well.
So what was the question?
So I finally received my tax bill last week in Cook County. It went up almost 20%. How is that possible?
Oh, well, we knew coming into this that this was going to be drastic.
Yeah.
And it's a little bit difficult to explain in the sense that taxes in Chicago are already very complicated, right? But we expected this hike to seem extreme, but as you and I have talked so much about, it seemed so much more extreme than it actually was.
Oh, totally.
Because we have to remember that our taxes are paid in arrears, meaning that we're always paying for the year behind. So in 2022, we're actually paying 2021's taxes. In 2021, we were paying 2020's taxes. Now, where this all got so goofy, or goofier maybe, is the fact that in 2020, March 2020, Cook County put a COVID reassessment in place under the mindset that this is going to be a rough economic ride. We want to try and help our homeowners. We are going to put an additional reassessment in place, a COVID reassessment, to lower the tax basis and make it a little bit more financially easy on people.
Okay.
This happened all before we knew anything that was going to go on with regards to the housing market, real estate values, or anything. This was just literally a, let me help you out.
So essentially, they just reduced the assessed values of people's houses so that they would get a reprieve on their tax bills.
Exactly.
Essentially.
The hard part was, and what we were telling people even at the time, was that, yes, they were doing it immediately, but people weren't going to see those tax bills until 2021. Mm-hmm. So, hey, we're going to possibly save you money or not increase on you. A lot of taxes actually went down. Mm-hmm. So in 2021, those tax bills actually went down. But we have to remember they went down in a bit of an artificial way. Not due to the market, but due to the concern of what the market was going to do back in 2020. Yep. So 2021, a lot of people saw their taxes go down. Some people saw their taxes stay the same. Very few saw them go up, but it was artificially down. In 2021 then, gosh, I'm going to confuse myself saying this so many times. In 2021, we had our triennial reassessment. Every 3 years in Cook County, we reassess taxes.
But why is that? Because every other county in Illinois does it once a year.
The reason we do it every 3 years is just the sheer amount of properties that we have. Yeah. The assessor couldn't keep up with it, and literally they are going around and kind of doing what they can to keep up with it, and it's just sheer volume. So they do it every 3 years. Your tax basis, your valuation will stay in place for 3 years, and then every 3 years, then they'll reassess, either for better, for worse, or whatever.
But so then why do tax bills change on an annual basis? Because that's one thing that does come up is even in negotiations, we negotiate 105%, expecting tax bills to somewhat go up on an annual basis.
Well, taxes tend to go up, right?
Yeah.
They very rarely tend to go down. And what changes every year, what is assessed every year, is the multiplication factors that they factor in for the taxes. So that we could say, hey, we're going to use the same valuation. If we take a $500,000 property that's been assessed by Cook County at $500,000, that valuation is going to stay in place for 3 years. Now, that's not to say the money that they ask for in different points of that isn't going to go up, right? Yeah. So we could say, hey, the schools need a little bit more, or the fire department needs a little bit more, or streets and sanitation needs a little bit more. So the multiplication factors against that assessed valuation can go up.
Yeah.
So then every 3 years we come in and we do a reassessment to say, hey, what's happened to valuations in that next time? So what we have to remember is that the tax valuation was artificially depressed in 2020, payable in 2021. Then in 2021, this new assessment came out, and right, wrong, or indifferent, everyone has to admit that most of our real estate values had gone up, some of them more dramatically than others because of what was happening with COVID.
Yeah. It was the pandemic appreciation that we saw. Most
people did very, very well in it. So when those tax bills just came out, they seemed high because they were reflective of the new valuation, which was increased, but it was the new valuation against the COVID valuation, which was artificially decreased. Yep. So the spread between the two got exacerbated to a bigger amount so that, we saw a lot of people that said, hey, my taxes are up 20%. My taxes went up as well. Now, I am taking solace in the fact, and I do this for all of my taxes. If I'm paying more taxes, that means my house is probably worth more money.
Yeah.
And so
Totally.
I don't like to pay for them, obviously. I continually remind myself that they're supporting a lot of good things. But I remind myself as I get that tax bill that, hey, the valuation, my equity in my property has just gone up. So you know what? When I look at it that way, I'm probably ahead of the game.
Yeah. Yeah, so I always say, like, remember with taxes that file your homeowner's exemption. That's due, it typically opens up in January. And I think they close in March, if I'm not mistaken.
For certain. So can you just help everyone that's listening, what is a homeowner's exemption?
Yeah, so if you actually live in the home as your primary property, you get a discount essentially on your property taxes, which is really great. The other good thing is you can go 3 years back in arrears. And so I always suggest that with my clients. Like sometimes I'll look it up and be like, hey, you haven't filed in, 3 years.
Yep.
Go back. It's free money in your pocket.
It's called a certificate of error
Yes.
when you go back and file it for up to 3 years past.
Yeah.
No, it's a great point to note, especially for our people that have purchased new homes this year.
Mm-hmm.
We find that typically it'll roll over if the past person will have it, but not always. And trust me, Cook County's not going to reach out to you and say, hey, you can save money by filing this. So we always tell people to make sure, check where it's at now. Call us, we'll help you check where it is. Because that's tax savings year over year. Now, once you've filed it once, and if you don't move or you don't change your deed or anything like that, the likelihood of it staying in place is really, really high. But still, keep an eye on it because once again, if it somehow falls off or you're not getting it, nobody's going to be chasing you with a check, and it's substantial enough.
Yeah, it is on your tax bill though too. So like when you get the tax bill, it's at the bottom.
Another great tip we always tell all of our clients is to make sure that you are appealing your assessed valuation. That's another way to definitely save some money. There's different times that you can appeal it based on what township you're in, so you'd have to check on that. There's also different ways to do it, but typically it's a great savings. A lot of the tax appeal attorneys, they work in a fashion in which they don't charge you unless there's actually a savings. Then if there is a savings, they take a percentage of that. The other thing that we see is there are some digital companies as well that work for a very, very small flat fee, but actually state that they will not stop appealing until they get some sort of savings. We did that on one before once where it's
I've never heard of that one.
Yeah, it's a small flat fee and they're motorized. It's a system. They go. And at some point they say, hey, you just saved this. So
that's a good little tip.
That's a good little tip.
Nice.
Okay, moving on. Here we go. This is obviously a very relevant one. I think we touched a little bit on this last month, but very, very in tune with the time of year. I'm looking to buy a property in 2023. What can I be doing right now to get ready?
Well, I always say the first thing to do is start planning. So set up your team. So your team is going to be, your main team up front is going to be your real estate agent and your lender. Yep. So getting those two into place is always kind of like the best way to kind of do it. So
let me ask you a question on that.
Yeah.
How do you find a great agent?
How do you find a great agent? Well, I feel like a lot of people actually do find their agents through friends and referrals. I mean, I say all the time, like a lot of our business does come from that. A lot of people actually do find it on websites, so like Zillow and social media,
all of the review sites,
and go on there and kind of see how people are talking about their agents. Luckily we do pretty well with that. We get really great reviews on Google, and you dominate Yelp. Everyone loves reviewing
I
you
love
on
my
Yelp.
Yelpers.
So yeah, I feel like that's always a good way to find a strong agent.
For certain. So basically referrals, asking around people, what if you moved here and you don't know anybody? You can go online.
Yep, go online.
Look at the review sites and those types of things.
Call us.
What do you think about interviewing real estate agents? Call us, for certain.
I actually find that really great. I mean, I literally had a buyer consultation yesterday, and the lady got my contact information. Actually, that is another great way to find an agent. She went on her school alumni website on the Facebook page and literally asked around she was like, hey, I'm new to the Chicago area. The chapter is here. Does anybody have a real estate agent? And my client, who's under contract, referred me to her. Nice. And so she reached out, and it was really great. We had a buyer consultation, and she's like, I got all these names from all these different people. I'm interviewing agents. And so it was really, really great. I don't always find that people do that.
Sure. No, and I, it's so funny. So many people ask us, obviously we work with a lot of referrals, right?
Yeah.
We're so fortunate to have raving fans out there, and we appreciate everyone that is a raving fan. But even still, buying or selling a home is a very intimate and personal process. And I tell every one of my clients when we're having initial discussions that, they need to be comfortable with me and how I work. It doesn't matter. The first thing I say to them is, it doesn't matter that your friend, your colleague, your whatever really enjoyed working with me. That got us to this point here. Moving forward, what matters is how you feel.
Yeah.
And so sometimes that takes talking to a few other people to kind of come back. I always say one of the best compliments I had a client ever give me, this is going to go way, way back. This was probably about 2004. A client said to me, said, Amanda.
You still remember that?
This thing is like a steel trap.
I was like, woof.
I remember he said to me, I could tell you the property address, the client, everything. He said to me at the end of it, he said, Amanda, when we first sat down and we talked and we met and we started working together, I really thought you were great. And even throughout the process, I really thought you were really, really good. But I'd never had an experience with an agent before. I didn't realize how good you were until we had all of the other interactions with agents throughout this process. And at that point, at the end of the process, I looked back and said, I had the best agent on my team. And like that philosophy in itself is that sometimes you have to go talk, sometimes you have to go kiss enough frogs to figure out who the prince is, so to say. But it was one of those things that I do encourage. I don't ever want somebody to feel badly if they're trying to find the right fit for them. And I even tell my clients up front, if for any reason you don't think I'm the right fit for you, you need to have the team that feels right.
Yeah. So what are the main, talking to a new buyer, they're interviewing, what are the really great questions you would ask to potential real estate agents?
Good question. For me, where I think a lot of people need to understand more is based on experience.
Totally.
Like, I can sit down with a client and I come forth with 20 years of experience, and I can tell you I have navigated a lot of turbulent situations.
But time does not relate to experience as well.
Very true.
So honestly, we always talk about each transaction is completely different.
Totally.
So being a real estate agent, how many times do you go through a transaction really is a testament to who you are what you can bring to that buyer.
Absolutely. Because there's agents that have been in this for 20 years that have probably done 15 transactions.
Yeah, exactly.
And then there's agents that have done that in their first year. 1,000%. And the other element is, with regards to the team per se. We have certain agents on our team that don't have as many years of experience, but they were smart enough to get into the business to say, hey, I want to align with all this experience. Yeah. So the minute they hit a situation that maybe they don't know quite as well, they're not trying to wing it. They're coming to us. They're talking to us to say, hey, how would you navigate these waters? So, once again, I think experience in my mind is one of the top things that people can look for in a good agent who has navigated a lot of different waters and really kind of understands how to get through transactions, get through markets, and give really, really good advice. So I think I would absolutely ask about that. I would ask about availability. We see a decent amount of people that do this part-time. And the reality is I don't mean to talk poorly about those that do. Yeah. But it's a career choice that, in my opinion, to really do it well, it's not something that I can only do at certain times of year. And clients can miss out. We've seen it where certain properties have sold during the regular workday, right? So a client could be missing out. Or if I don't have my finger on the pulse of what's happening way too many hours of the day that I even should, but consistently, then at that point in time, I'm not doing as good of a job for my clients. So for me personally, it's experience, knowing that I can rely on my teammate to really navigate anything that could be thrown at us, and availability from that perspective. Now, that's not to say, I'm going to be very, very clear. When I first got into this business, I had an absolute threshold to say 24/7. You can get me 24/7. There is a huge real estate agents that do this at the level that we do.
You burn out if you do that.
Well, we do. We work way more than most, right?
No, totally.
We are on the phone at 10 o'clock on Saturday night negotiating. We are stepping out of family time. We are doing all this, and that is part of it, right? Don't get into this to think that you can't do some. But there also has to be some boundaries,
Yeah.
right? There has to be some balance. There has to be some of those things. So I think that it's important to find somebody that constantly has their balance. You know, as I joke and say, yes, I'm going to go watch my kids do their swimming lessons. I'm going to check my emails every couple of minutes just to make sure that nothing's passing me by. But we have to be able to take care of us in there too. But availability and experience are my two things. What would you say? What are good questions for you?
Oh my God, those were like the two exact ones that I had. So now I have to really think about my additional one. Well, I think going back to the team situation, right? Like right now, I feel like everyone is gravitating towards a team, and it's so hard in this industry to be a single agent.
Very true.
I think like having the support staff. So we have Jared, who is amazing and crazy good, and he's there in the back to make sure that, again, I'm doing everything correctly because
he's keeping the ship afloat, as I say.
Yeah, we're good at like the really big picture things. We're good at talking about the negotiations and the pricing and strategy and all of that. But sometimes those fine details, that's not my strong suit. And so we need somebody on the back end who's making sure that everything is going correctly.
For certain.
So I think that one.
Just to pivot off of that.
And also, if we're not available, that goes back to the availability thing.
Yeah.
Do I have somebody on my team that is professionally trained by me or you that is going to be there, who's going to be essentially my right arm on that showing? And I know exactly what they're saying, because a lot of single agents are out there. And if they don't have coverage, they have to go to somebody in their office, and
they don't work with day in and day out.
They don't work with day in and day out. And so you just don't know who you're kind of getting. So yeah, I would say kind of something like that.
No, I think that's a tremendous point. You know, it's funny, when I got into this industry, there really weren't teams.
Yeah, everyone was individual.
Yeah. And, you know, as I like to say to clients, I think for most agents to get to the point where they have to kind of say, real estate is a multifaceted journey. Mm-hmm. And the reality is I have to admit that there's parts of that journey that I'm not the best person to manage. You know, kind of coming to that point, which, you know, is not always the easiest thing to swallow, but to say, hey, there are certain people on our team that do certain things better than I do. That gives us the ability to really put the best forward. And as you said, just knowing that we constantly have coverage, that our clients' needs aren't ever getting dropped or placed with somebody that doesn't have the, you know, doesn't have the depth or the knowledge of how we do things, is incredibly comforting for us to know.
Yeah. I think the last thing that I would probably add that I just thought about, speaking of teams, is having the back end people. I mean, we talked about having a lender and like planning with your lender, but do they have a really good lender? Do they have a really good attorney that they are really confident in? Do they have a really good inspector? Like, those are the things that I'd be asking my buyer's agent when I would be looking at.
For certain. And I mean, as we saw, especially last year when things get competitive, the good, bigger team really made a difference for us, because whether we were the listing agents and we were sorting through all the offers or we were representing the buyers, we saw a lot of success in the fact that we could go and say, hey, this is a really strong agent that absolutely gets the deal done, manages the client well, knows what to do. They've got a great attorney. They've got a great lender. We have a lot of confidence in that. When we're going through offers, you and I have both said it. There are sometimes that we see maybe something that is a little bit more of a limited service or that we kind of say, hey, just as a heads up, we don't know if there's going to be as much of a relationship there, or a lead-based program. We don't know how the relationship is. We don't know if the client is really engaged with it. You know, so we are able to present us as an offer package.
It's almost creating a foundation for that offer.
For certain.
That makes it a really, really strong foundational base. So the seller has the utmost confidence that we can proceed forward and make it to the finish line, especially in a busy market. Most people, some don't make it to the finish line. So we just want to make sure.
That's what we say when the market gets crazy like that. It's not about getting offers. It's about picking the one that's actually committed to getting to the finish line.
But the big thing about like having the foundational team is really about the communication. The communication is the strongest part in a transaction. And so if I don't know who the lender is, or I don't know who that attorney is, the communication can sometimes break down because we don't know how they work. And that is the strongest position for a buyer to work with.
And it's true. We've worked with attorneys that we haven't had experience in the past, and they were very, very communicative. But we have also worked with some where they kind of see like church and state. And we found that the success of our clients really, really happens because we are integrated into the process from the day we go under contract to the day, you know, we're at the closing. A lot of agents at that point kind of step back, but we found success in that. Okay, we're totally off track here. I'm going to reel us back in. Back to good things that a buyer can be doing right now. So you're saying start with getting a team together.
Yeah, start getting your team together, start putting it in place, find your agent, find your lender. I think those are the first good starts.
What do you think about the idea of like, hey, I want to start looking at listings right now? If somebody were to say to you, I want to buy in 2023, I'd like to start looking at listings right now.
Well, it depends on when your lease is up, because that's going to be a starting factor. Are you ready to go right now? Mm-hmm. And if you're not, then maybe we push it off. But again, that goes back to the plan. Are you looking for a needle in the haystack? Do we need a little bit more time? Are you looking for something that's readily available? And do you want to pair it up with your lease end? Or is there flexibility in your lease? I always talk to my clients about talk to your landlords, understand that no matter where in Chicago, you are able to sublease. The funny thing is, the Chicago leases all say you cannot sublease, but the landlord tenants right ordinance says that you can. So there are two contradicting pieces of paper that you literally are signing, but the Chicago landlord tenants right ordinance trumps the actual lease. And so just knowing that is, I think, one of the biggest things that most of our potential buyers always ask.
For certain. And on that whole idea of, you know, buyers get anxious, they get excited, they say, hey, can we start seeing stuff? And I think you're so right. So much of it depends on the time of year, the plan, all of the different pieces. You know, if somebody's looking to be in the first half of the year, then I think that's a much different conversation than who's looking in the second half of the year. And it's not that we don't have the time and energy and resources to do it. It's really that we don't want to miseducate people. We don't want to say, hey, here's what's available to you at this price point in market conditions that could be very different than when you're buying. So based on that, you know, we do have some access to do, you know, we can use some of our software programs, some of our apps. Zenlist is one that we use quite a bit to help start educating. So if clients want to kind of get a slow drip of seeing like, hey, what's out there, seeing some pocket listings, seeing some of that, that's one thing. Maybe put a toe in the water here, but it really depends. The reason that we might say, hey, let's wait a little bit, all becomes is we just want to be careful about miseducation. Okay, so a ton of great stuff. I think the long story short, finding your agent, putting together your team, and setting your strategy for the new year. That's the best things that somebody can be doing right now.
Amanda, this is a fun question.
I love fun questions.
What are your favorite holiday traditions in Chicago?
Oh, that's a good one. Holiday, winter. Truth be told, I hate cold weather. I am the Capeline queen, right? I wear long underwear from 50 degrees to 50 degrees. So
I like how you like wear double underwear though. It's like 50 degrees is one layer, and then it's like 30 degrees is two layers.
No, I bump up to expedition weights then. Okay. But anyway, but I love all the fun things to do in the city during this time of year, right? The stuff that starts kind of November, goes through January, February. Some of it's very holiday based, some of it's not. One of our favorite traditions is absolutely, we've done it for at least the last 4, maybe 5 years, is to do the illumination lights at the Morton Arboretum.
Oh, so I've never been to it.
It is a bit of a drive from the city, but it is such a good experience. It's so fun. It's a walking tour. The lights are amazing, no matter what the age, no matter what the dynamic. It's a great night. I know there's a lot of great nights, great lights in the city.
Zoo lights though.
Zoo lights are fantastic. I love them. They're part of the zoo, which I think is great. But this takes it to a whole new level. This is like an experience.
Oh, okay.
So that's a fun one. The other one that has been kind of a staple in our house, we do our Santa visits. We do them at the 900 North Michigan Avenue shops.
Nice.
Always fun. Santa is very realistic there, so we like that. I still have believers. Yes. Right? I'm a believer too. And we've also down there, while we're down there, Bubbles Academy. If you're not familiar with Bubbles Academy, they do a lot of kid classes, a lot of kid schools, those types of things. They've got a lot of fun holiday type stuff going on too, ornament making, cookie decorating, all that good stuff.
Really?
Yeah.
That's
We
kind of
We did a
fun.
little bit of a day over there and had fun doing that, doing Santa, doing
Maybe I need kids.
You can borrow
borrow.
them. You can
Okay,
borrow
good.
them. We can even pay you. It's called babysitting.
Oh, nice. Oh my gosh. Last night it was so funny. My mom and I were driving down the street, and she goes, "Look at all the nice Christmas lights on the trees." And then we pull up in front of my building, and my building has up lights, and I'm like, "And look at our white trash, like up lights." You know, because the other side of the street has like them all hung in the thing, and yeah.
No, we
it's
actually
like,
this time of year we try.
I do love the lights.
We try and take different drives home.
Yeah, so you can
every
see
night,
it.
so that we can see the lights. I love the fact that the people in Chicago really embrace kind of lighting the houses up. Now ours admittedly last well into January because we like them. So, what about you? What are some of the favorite kind of holiday and winter traditions that you guys like to do around the city?
So my favorite is actually ice skating. I love going ice skating. So the ribbon is amazing in Maggie Daly Park. I think it was such a great addition.
Have you tried Gallagher Way yet?
No. And I heard that they actually put it in the actual Wrigley Field.
Oh yeah, not out front where it used to be.
Well, yeah, it used to be like this little puddle in front, which was never fun because literally by the time you got around one, so it was like 2 seconds, and then so many people like skated on it, and the ice was just so bad. So I'm really interested to see, but I guess they're closing January 8th. So
okay, so if you're gonna do
you
that,
need to do it
as
a
But there's actually
early winter.
quite a few skating rinks around.
Yeah, I love the one on Michigan Avenue in Millennium Park. That one's my all-time favorite. It does get a little like the lines are a little heavier, but I do like that. Warren Park is supposed to be really good too, and it's like huge.
I heard that's outdoor, and then the other indoor one that I actually have quite a few clients that skate there all year round, just talking about ice skating, is McFetridge Park.
Yeah, I know actually a lot of hockey players who do the one in West Loop as well. So
Johnny's Ice House.
Yeah,
Johnny's Ice House for certain.
But so I like that. God, what else I mean, I don't do any of like the plays or anything like that, like the Christmas Carol. I heard it was really good this year. Like the guy who plays Scrooge was amazing and like
very Scroogey.
Yeah, but I also heard that the special effects were really good. So maybe I'll check that out this year. Yeah. But I definitely like that. I always also like the Christmas lighting in November.
Yeah.
I mean, it's already passed, but I think that's always fun because Santa ends it and it's like the big parade. Yeah.
No, there's a lot of fun things to do out there for certain.
Yeah, I actually did the Chris Kindle Mart though 2 weeks ago.
The one downtown?
The one downtown.
Okay, because now there's 2 in the city.
Also, go during November, not in January, because this is the first year I went super early, and I normally go towards the end of it. And so by the end of it, it is so cold, and you don't like being cold. This was the first time I went, and it was like 50 degrees, and I was like, it was so pleasant. I was like, I actually want to spend time here.
Yeah.
Yeah. My partner wanted to
buy
a
so there's
hippo.
there's 2 markets now in the city. There's the one downtown, and then there's the one at, are we supposed to say the one at Wrigley Field or the one at Gallagher Way? It's
Gallagher
called
Way, but it's
Gallagher Way.
It's right outside of Wrigley.
At Wrigley. So,
yeah.
Okay, super. Okay, well, let's go back into this. Right now we're going to transition. We had somebody ask about what they can be doing if they're buying in 2023. What if I'm going to plan on selling in 2023? What should I be doing now to get ready?
So the one thing that I always say with selling, a lot of people come to us right as they want to sell, and there's no preparation in it. And so I always say, come to us a little earlier so we can actually strategize. We can put a marketing plan together. We can strategize with you, especially if you're looking to purchase and like sell at the same time. It helps us determine timing strategy and all of it. So
it's true. It's a little more complicated when you're selling for certain. And it definitely takes a little bit more lead time. We talk a ton about strategy and planning, but really for us to be so effective or more effective, it's not, trust me, we get plenty of people that come in and say, hey, I want to sell right now. And we can put it into place and we can do it. But if we have a little bit of time, we have that ability to do more. And I'd actually say
we can be more intentional, essentially.
Well, in the next 30 days for me, and I know for you too, is so much consultation. I spend more time doing kind of what we're going to do this year meetings. We jump on a Zoom, we talk for 45 minutes to an hour. This is our goals. This is our intention. This is kind of our timeline. What makes sense? that's so much of what we're doing this time of year. So yes, getting in early. There's no such thing as too early, really.
No.
I mean, we absolutely talk to people that might say, hey, I'm going to be an end of 2023 buyer or seller. What should I be thinking about now to get ready for it for certain? Okay, so starting the process early. Once again, the whole idea of I think finding your team should be right up there. Finding a good real estate agent. Hopefully somebody had a great experience with whomever sold them the property.
Yes.
That's not always the case. Sometimes that person has retired or left the business or didn't
Or you don't
survive.
remember their name.
Or you don't remember their name.
Unfortunately.
Yeah, there's a lot of reasons that people look to navigate to a different agent. So finding a great agent is first and foremost. I think putting together that strategy and plan is right up there. If somebody's selling, quite often they're going to buy, right? It's not always the case. There's some very, very different situations, but a lot of times they're going to. And if they're going to, that is a little bit more complicated. That takes what are they financially able to do? What do they want to do? And then we have to kind of put together what I call the buy-sell dance, right? How do we structure it to make people successful? I mean, the other things that we usually tell people is that almost every listing that we list, we're going to do a staging appointment with them. We're going to walk through and talk about how do we present this property as well as possible. Not all of our clients like us as much at the end of those conversations, truth be told.
But we need to package it up and present it like a present to a potential buyer.
How do we put our best foot forward? And for some people, it's staging. For some people, it's working within what they have in their home. Some people maybe need some small modifications, some paint, some touch up. How do we help our clients present as the best possible piece? And that's part of the getting in early. We've got clients that some of them it takes 2, 3, 4, 6 months to get them to that point. So they may be somebody saying, hey, I really wanted to be a July or August seller. Those are meetings that there's absolutely value in having now, so that when we get to that point, they're not stressed in the fact of saying, hey, you just gave me a huge laundry list of how we present the best possible, and now I need to come back, and now I need to do all this stuff. They're ready.
Moving is stressful. I mean, so moving is really, really, really stressful. And so you do compile it all at once. It's a lot harder, and it just adds to that stress. So yeah, I agree with you. If we can prepare sooner, it'll alleviate some of that stress.
I think or
at least dissipate it.
Quote is that, or not the quote, but the statistic states that moving is one of the top 5 most stressful things that you'll do.
Totally.
Right? And you're absolutely correct. If we can get involved earlier, we can help to manage that stress. Mm-hmm. We can help to alleviate some of it. I mean, we can't make it stress-free, right? The reality is it's stressful, but we can help to make it easier and better from that perspective. The other thing that I like to do a lot of times with our sellers is sometimes even get those photographs done early. Like how many
for winter when it's white out and it looks bleak, it's way better to take it the summer before. Even if we don't know you're selling, we'd rather just have a front photo,
the exterior,
just to again captivate that buyer in that winter market.
Yeah, we have quite a few clients that were prepping for 2023 already, who called us and we were talking to in conjunction in the spring and the summer of 2022. We've already got all their exteriors. We already know our sellers that has said, hey, whenever it happens, if you're going to list in March and outside doesn't look so good, we've got some great exteriors of your house. So absolutely great points. Okay, so once again, I think it comes back to reach out early if you can, right? Sometimes we get a relocation package or somebody has to, but reach out early if you can, finding your right agent, solidifying your team, and being willing to strategize and put together a plan that's going to make our clients as successful as they can be.
Yeah. The other thing also is we can then help them, especially if they're moving to other markets, because some sellers, the reason why they're moving is because they're moving to other markets. Yep. We can actually reach out and let other agents know in those markets that we have connections with that perform at a similar level that we perform at, that we can make those introductions. And then we can also pair up with them so that we can strategize that buy, sell kind of dance that we were talking about.
Great point. We have connections throughout the country and realistically throughout the world, so that we know that, right, our expertise doesn't take us to different parts of the country or the world, but we can at least take a breath and say, hey, we can get you into people that are going to take good care of you versus somebody just kind of randomly going out there and trying to figure it out.
Totally.
Okay, super.
Cool.
What's up next?
So this one, preface this, I mean, we're talking about predictions for 2023. Obviously, we are going to release our special edition podcast kind of thing, where we do talk about 2023, but just a high overview. What are your expectations?
Okay. And you're absolutely right. Our next episode is going to be a bonus. It's the time that every year we make predictions on what is going to happen in the market. And then at the end of the year, we grade ourselves and we make predictions for the next year. So we are going to dive really, really deep into this. But if I'm just going to give kind of high level, one thought, I'm going to talk about the fact that the overall number of sales are going to come down, right? And why I think this is so relevant, right? We've talked about the media ad nauseum. Not going to talk about it today.
Yeah.
But the overall number of sales are going to come down. And with that, we have to understand there is a direct disconnect. Just because the number of sales come down doesn't mean that values go down.
Totally.
There are two separate entities, two metrics that we follow, but the overall number of sales should come down. We have a lot of different things driving this. First and foremost, we've had a couple of years in which a lot of people have transferred and changed their housing environment, right? Those have been higher numbers. We know that they're on higher numbers. Number two, we talk a lot about this with the interest rate. We have a lot of people that are very comfortable right now in very low interest rates. So even somebody that maybe bought a house 10 years ago that it's time for a change, they may push off that thought process if they can stay there because right now they refinanced and they have a 2.9% interest rate.
Yep.
The other idea of what I've had quite a few clients talk to me about recently, renting is that I've got clients that have properties with very low interest rates that
free.
They never thought about becoming a landlord until they said, hey, I own this property, this hard asset that I can essentially go in and I can rent it out. And it makes sense right now. I really didn't plan to do this, but yeah, let's move into our next property. Let's keep this. Some investors will absolutely tell you from that perspective that they are saving kind of their interest rate, right? They're not transferring it to the next property, but they're not giving it up. So I think with those things in mind, I think the number of homes that come onto the market are going to be less and the overall sales are going to be down.
Yep. I mean,
what are you going to say on that? One quick prediction for 2023.
I think our inventory is going to match our demand, which is going to keep prices very, very steady.
Explain that to me.
So again, you're talking about inventory going down because people aren't going to move. So that's going to restrict the supply side. Basic economics is supply and demand. And so if your supply is coming down, but your demand is keeping up, which interest rates are coming down already. They've already come down a percentage point like in the last month. So I mean, we're having a lot of buyer conversations and consultations right now for next year. And I think that people obviously are renting still. And so those first-time home buyers are still going to come into the market. I mean, remember, millennials right now are hitting, so the average age that somebody buys their first house is 30.
Okay.
So if that's the case, we have the most amount of 30-year-olds coming into the market in the next year. Which is why we've also seen the last 2 years be really popular with first-time home buyers. So I think that is going to outpace. I think people are still going to want to purchase because their life is at that stage. And again, you marry the house, you don't marry the rate, and rates change. And so I don't think that interest rates are going to give pause to people thinking about it, but I don't think it's going to drastically affect some people, especially in Chicago, because the affordability is so great here that I think it's just going to maintain each other. And supply and demand, I think our prices are going to stay steady because of that.
Okay. So your prediction...
My prediction is
that
prices will stay.
Is going to go.
Inventory will go down a little bit, which is great. It'll maintain our market, and I think demand is still going to be strong. I think we're going to still see the seasonality. I think similar to what we've seen the last 2 years, where our spring market is a little bit busier than kind of that summer fall market. But
I think it's interesting, and I think I agree with a ton of what you say. But I think our inventory could grow a little bit in certain sectors.
Yeah, totally.
And that's, I think, the clarification to say is that I don't think we are at any point of next year going to be rolling around in inventory, right? But I think we could see a little bit of growth, but I do think that we're going to see the demand in it. And I do think that all of that being said, we're going to see that the market, as we've talked about, is going to start pretty quickly.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Oh, another fun one to wrap it up.
All right.
Okay, I'm going to put you on the spot here, right?
Okay.
This is a very personal one. So we always like when it gets personal. I always struggle to figure out great holiday gifts for people that I want to get gifts for. Do you guys have any great recommendations?
I mean, that's so sweet. I am just not a holiday person, and I've never been a gift person.
Wait, what? Say that again. You're not a holiday person?
I mean, I am a holiday. I'm from divorced family, so splitting the times between like every single family member is very, very, very hard.
It's stressful.
And so it's stressful. And so I've just come to prefer, I'd rather give you my time than gifts. And so I've always liked that. But I do like the little personal gifts. Like if you're, hey, like I was just thinking about you. I like doing that all year round. Like if I just, hey, like pick it up and just send it.
I was thinking about you or something like that.
Yeah, I think that's a little bit more for me than kind of like, hey, this is Christmas and it's a gift time. But I do like local shopping. I mean, like I always think that's really fun.
But I mean, I would say some of the best gifts you've given me over the years are you find the greatest books.
Yeah.
And to me, that's a fantastic gift because essentially you read something was impactful to you.
Yeah.
And then you wanted to share it with me.
Well, I got that from a bunch of other people, like because like whenever we travel, some people are like, hey, I just read this good book, or like, hey, I just met you at this conference and here's like a financial book that I found was really, really impactful. I think that's always really special.
I agree. And I think it's true. I mean, I think you hit on so many really good points there. First and foremost, the holidays are a bit stressful. And I think that that's a reminder that we just all have to try and enjoy what we can, right? Yeah. There's a lot going on. There's a lot of expectations. There's a lot of family. There's a lot of things, and they're all great things. But I do think that the expectation has to be managed. I can't tell you how many people I talk to after the holidays that are just like, whew, we survived. Exhausted. We made it. Yeah. We got through. Let's do it again. So, I mean, one of the things that we always try and do is we try and kind of take stock where we can.
Totally.
And kind of remember that our stressors are blessings, right? And to really do well with it.
So what's your favorite?
So we're doing a couple of fun things, and maybe a spoiler alert. First and foremost, I think we have a farm. We make honey, not we, us together. A beekeeper makes honey on our farm. So this is the first year that we're actually packaging some of that.
Oh, and fine.
No, we're not selling it. We've had retailers reach out to us to ask. It's not something we're doing yet, but we want to gift this to people and friends and family because it's one of those things that it's a little token of us, right?
Yeah.
It's something that we created. It's something a little different. The other thing that we did this year that once again I like things that means things to people, right?
Yeah.
We had a close family to us who lost their dog this year, which
no,
not like
we're all puppy people.
That their dog went to the Rainbow Bridge. What we did for them is we had a local artist paint a portrait of the dog for them to hang in their house. And that was one of those things that, we've had that done for us a few times, and it was just like one of the most wonderful gifts I ever received.
Wow.
So kind of touching into that personal stuff for people.
That was really nice. I mean, I had a friend who sent me the picture of Rodeo. Mm-hmm. Like they had it sketched and had an artist do it and framed it, and I have it on my desk. So
I should actually tell the story as a quick story.
Really nice.
A quick story before we wrap up. One of the nicest gifts I've probably ever gotten in my life, right?
Yeah.
Came from a client after a closing. Totally caught me off guard. They had a local kid, somebody that, I think they babysat for them. That was an artist as well. And she had a sketch done of our two dogs that had both passed within the last 2 years.
Oh, wow.
And she had the teenager draw this beautiful sketch and have it framed and mounted and put in our house. And I tell you, I opened that up, and the fact that a client had the ability to do something like that, literally, I'm not an emotional person,
very, very sweet.
But it brought me to tears.
Wow, that's really great.
It was,
Oh my God.
So personalized things, anything that kind of comes from us, the fact that somebody takes a little bit of time and energy to put into some thought process, I always think are best.
Yeah, I love that.
Awesome.
Nice.
Well, I think we hit a lot of great points. I think we are gearing up. Obviously, next up is going to be our market report. We're going to judge how we did, and we're going to put some market predictions out there.
Ooh. Good luck to us.
Hopefully we didn't fail. It was a tough year though.
Okay, you can't say like we failed because honestly, at the end of the day, we had so many successes this year, and we had.
I'm just talking about the report card.
Oh, I was like,
no, we had a great. It was our clients had a ton of success. I'm just worried about our report card.
It's fine. We'll figure it out.
So that's a wrap. Episode 3 is
in the books.
On the books.
In the books.
Who knows? We did it. We finished. Until next time, Chicago.